Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee, and today I'm going to be doing my mid-month wrap-up for July. And I have read a lot in this first half of the month, and I'm going on vacation next week, so I don't want to go on vacation and forget everything about these books. So I'm going to jump into a mid-month wrap-up. I've talked about before that mid-month wrap-ups for me don't have any stats, and I talk about the books in order that I read them, so I will go through that, and then at the end of the month I will have my stats and more details about like how I read these books and all of that stuff. But let's jump into it. So the first thing that I finished this month was Hollow by Shannon Waters, Braden Boyer-White, and Bernice Nell, and this is a graphic novel about Sleepy Hollow, basically a like retelling of Sleepy Hollow in the modern day, but we sort of have this fun, I really love this art style. It was super fun to read, and I hope you can see it in some sort of detail. And in this, we're following Izzy Crane, who moves back to Sleepy Hollow with her family, and she has the name Crane but doesn't know anything about Sleepy Hollow. She meets Vicky Van Tassel, who is a descendant of the Van Tassels from the Washington Irving story, and Izzy kind of gets to know some friends in this town, and then the Headless Horseman ghost starts showing up, and Izzy seems to be in danger. Vicky seems to be in danger. So the three of these guys get together and try and figure out what's going on in their sleepy little town. And it's super fun, super cute. This would be super fantastic for October and like the fall season. I really enjoyed this. I might reread it then. It's gonna go on my shelf with like my Mooncakes books because it was just so fun and sweet and really interesting to read. I liked the take on the like retelling part of this story, and it was a pretty simple book, so I don't have a lot to say about it, but I enjoyed it a lot, and the art style is really cool. Next up, we have Heart Haunt Havoc by Freydis Moon, and this is a horror novella that I picked up. I had seen this floating around during the trans rights readathon and wanted to pick it up, and I didn't. So when I saw this physical copy at my bookstore, I decided to grab it. In this, we're following Colin, who is a I want to say paranormal investigator, but that's not really what he does. He goes to houses and takes care of the haunting, and he goes to Bishop's home where Bishop has been having trouble with a haunting, and they don't really want to explain to Colin why this haunting is happening and the details of it. So Colin keeps trying to investigate while also respecting Bishop's secrecy, but Colin needs more details, and there also seems to be an attraction between the two of them, which doesn't normally happen for Colin on jobs. So I loved this. I thought it was fantastic. We have a non-binary main character as well as a trans main character, and a lot of discussions about hauntings, both the mental and physical kind in here, and I really enjoyed that. I thought this was such a fun balance of heavy, dark, like intense haunting stuff, as well as like mental discussions of grief and stuff like that, with also some light moments and humor and some witty banter and just some sarcastic characters. Just like there was a good balance, like a good for this novella of like heavy and light. And I just overall really enjoyed this. I thought the themes were really interesting. Definitely want to read more by this author when more comes out, and I would love to see more of Colin's sort of adventures into the cleansing houses game. Just overall, this was full of heart, full of darkness, but also full of light and hope and really interesting discussions. Then I went on a beach day trip with some friends and read The Brazen and the Beast by Sarah MacLean. This is the second book in the Bare Knuckle Bastard series, which is a historical fiction series centered around three siblings. The first two books are centered on the brothers in this trio, and in this we're following Beast, who is a guy who doesn't talk a lot. He is very focused on his businesses and keeping his people safe because he believes he has failed in that area before, and he wakes up in a carriage with Hattie. Hattie is a 29-year-old woman who has been on the shelf for years. She's just the good old friend that everybody likes but no one wants to marry, and the two of them kind of have this back and forth in the carriage, and Hattie has some information that Beast needs to keep his people safe, but she doesn't want to give up the person that might have put Beast in danger, and the two of them kind of just have to keep doing this balancing act. I liked this one better than the first book. I thought the tension was more well done in this one between Beast and Hattie, and how they kind of couldn't stay away from each other, but they also like had reasons to stay away from each other. Hattie also has a more like concrete goal, and I thought that created a third act conflict that was much more interesting, even though it was sort of based in miscommunication. The two of them just have a really interesting dynamic, and I really thought the tension was so good in here between the two of them for being like just a one-shot book. It just took a long time for them to kind of like break that tension and have a discussion with one another, even though they like wanted to and we're kind of having that discussion. But overall, I really liked this. This was fun and enjoyable. I read it in like 6 hours. It was super fast and I had a good time with it. Then the next grouping of books that I have here were all read for the project that I kind of premiered this week on my channel, where I talked about a 6-month TBR that I had and then vlogged it. But it took me up until July to get through some of these books, and I'm just going to talk about them here because they're fresh in my mind and I want to kind of recap everything, and this is going to go up after the second vlog anyway, so let's jump into it. So the first one I have here is A Master of Jinn by P. Jolly Clark. I finished this month. In this, we are following a female detective in 1920s Cairo. I think it's 1920s, 1912. 1912 Cairo. It's like a steampunk sort of setting because years before, someone had opened a portal and let jinn through. So jinn and magic have come into the world, and it has affected the kind of storyline of our past, and even though it's kind of set in a similar world to ours, and it also has jinn and magic, and Egypt is one of the most powerful powers in the world. So this is super interesting setting. I really love our main character Fatima, who like she is a detective of the supernatural, so she's going into these situations where, in this specific one, a bunch of people have been killed by a mysterious force, and someone is coming back claiming to be the person that opened that portal that I talked about. So she's investigating this. I loved this book. I loved it to pieces. Like I said, the setting is so interesting and so well created and crafted. Like I could really put myself there and follow the story. I loved our main character as well as all of the characters around her. She has this like group of women that she's working with, and the three of them are such an interesting force to watch work, and they take on and win so many things. I really loved the romantic plot of this because I had read the novellas previous to this. I had the background, but I did like that we didn't have to go through the like getting to know the romantic interest. The two of them just kind of work together and are figuring themselves out, but we don't have to get to know City. She's already there because of the background in the novellas. For me, that worked really well, and I liked that we had these characters that were kind of established, but like you could just roll with. And overall, I just loved this to bits. There's a sapphic relationship in here, as well as, like I said, women working together. There is like Fatma talking about the working against the like male dominated field that she's in, and she's got allies in there as well as adversaries, but I just really loved the dynamics that she had with her team and her group, and just her as a character was fantastic. Yeah, but I would love to read more in this world. I don't know if we're getting it, but I would love more from this. Then the next thing I have here is Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. This is the first in a, I believe, trilogy about the cast of a Game of Thrones like show getting their romances. So in this we are following Marcus and April, who are, Marcus is an actor in the show, but he also has a kind of like side gig of writing fanfic in a server about the show, and he keeps this very under wraps. He also has a lot of anxiety and doesn't talk to the press very much, and he, or like anyone like outside of his friends very much, like he doesn't talk to the wider world very much. And April is a plus size fanfic writer who posts she kind of keeps her identity a secret because of her job, but then she posts a picture of her cosplay of this show to the internet, and people come after her because they don't think she's representing the character well. And Marcus comes to her defense, as well as a lot of other people, but Marcus gets the attention because he is an actor in the show. He offers to take her out to dinner, and the two of them meet, but the underlying plot of this is that they are already friends on the server where they write fan fiction and haven't met before. So it kicks off from there. This was fun. I enjoyed this a lot. It has one of my favorite tropes, the like you've got mail trope, the like one person knows and the other person doesn't, and they like know each other through another means. I like that trope a lot. So that for me was a fun part of this. I also really liked April as a character, and Marcus. I really liked the things that they were working through. They both have a lot of things that they've kind of tried to deal with themselves, but then talk out with each other and work together to solve and make better for each other. And I liked that about their dynamic. Overall, this was like a little too long in my opinion, and like even though I liked the things we were working through, it felt like possibly we had like one too many things to like hurdle over to get to like their happy ending. But overall I really liked it, and I will read more in this series. I actually borrowed the next one so that I can read it on the beach, because this would be a fun beach read. But I just liked this. I liked the like idea of the world with all these like different cast of characters, and I liked the things that were going on in the background that I think are going to be the next books. April as a character was a really strong lead, and I really loved her, and I liked how Marcus was kind of a big golden retriever energy main character, and he was fun too. But I just liked their dynamic a lot, and I'm gonna try to read more. But you know, overall it was a fun read, but it didn't do too much that I didn't expect or anything surprised me. So it's gonna end up being in the middle of the road, but not in a bad way. Then we have Magic Bites and Magic Burns by Adeline Andrews. These are the first two books in the Kate Daniels series by the Andrews. These are about Kate, who is a young mercenary in the world where magic has returned to the world in full force. There's magic waves where magic is plentiful and then it goes away and technology works. Kate works as, like I said, a mercenary to deal with magical problems in this world, and it's a bit of a dystopian world. Like there's a lot of things that don't work anymore and humans have had to adapt to. There's also shapeshifters and vampires and like every type of mythology you can think of mixed in here. And we've just started to follow Kate as she goes on this journey over a 10-book series, and she's so different in these first few books than she is by the end of the series. She grows and changes so much over the course of the series, so it's always interesting to me to go back and see her at her most like removed from society, removed from the world, like just being a merc who takes on things and doesn't have any investigative or political skills. And then over the course of the books she really grows, and I really love that about her. And anyway, the first book is not my favorite. I always give it like a 3 out of 5 stars because I think, especially in comparison to later books, it suffers, and it's not, but I think it's like their debut book, so there's things here that can definitely be improved. And then this gets about a 3.5 because it's similar in that vein of there are things that can be improved, but it's a step up from the last book, and we get to know Kate more as well as the world more. Things solidify a little bit more from here, and I really enjoy both of these. These were so fun. I listened to the graphic audio adaptations of these audiobooks for the first time this month, and because I've read these before, that was such a fun experience. It was interesting because the character voices that I had in my head for these characters were different, especially for Derek, because I didn't put the southern accent on Derek in my brain. He was just a kid that had an accent, but not really as southern as his accent was in the audiobook. So graphic audio is like a full cast, and I really enjoyed that. I'm so anxious for the next book to come out. So overall, these rereads were fun and exciting, and I'm really excited for the next audiobook to come out. I don't know if I can wait that long to keep reading these, because once I start it, I don't want to stop, but I'm also anxious for the audiobook, so we'll see what happens. Overall, very fun. One of my favorite series of all time. Will be continuing. But that is everything that I have read in the first half of the month. If you're interested in what else I read for that project, I will have the vlogs or something linked here. I'm also going to do like some kind of wrap up at some point to talk about it. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see me again, go ahead and hit that subscription button down below, and I will see you next time.